Hi, Tian. So we're going to read this book. This has a number of different stories in it, so that will be interesting. But it's written by the same person who wrote the other Canadian books. Um, so the first one is A Quest in Time. Lisa called her mother from the front door. There's a delivery for you, a big trunk. It's from, oh, Uncle Howard. Oh, Mum, said Liza, swallowing the lump in her throat. He must have sent it before he... She couldn't bring herself to say the word died. Yes, her mother said, closing her eyes in pain. She smiled gently. Let's put it in your room, Lisa. So I guess he had died. They carried the heavy trunk between them down the hallway and set it on the floor by Lisa's bed. Why don't you take a look at it on your own, Lisa's mother said, giving her daughter a hug. You can show me later what Uncle Harold sent you. Lisa watched her leave, then looked down at the battered trunk. She picked up the large key that lay on top. Slowly, Lisa turned the rusty key in the lock. The trunk squeaked and groaned. Then with a tiny click, it opened. Lisa's heart raced as she lifted the lid. The trunk was full of strange objects and Uncle Harold's journal. On top of the journal lay a note. My dear Lisa, one journey ends, another begins. Learn from what you see, learn from what you feel. Remember, I love you, Uncle Howard. Lisa's eyes flooded with tears. She remembered Uncle Harold's booming voice echoing through their living room as he told them about his archaeological trips and his green eyes dancing as he spun a story. She remembered the strange, distant look that crossed his face and his words the last time she saw him. Lisa, he said, we're so much alike. Did he know it was their last time together? What did this note mean? Why had he sent her the trunk? Lisa wiped her eyes. Uncle Harold wouldn't want her to cry. She picked up his journal and began to read. May 1st, 1982, Iceland. Do you remember who came from Iceland and Greenland? We were reading that book. You're right if you said it was the Vikings. What luck. We found a wooden eye from the figurehead of a Viking ship from around 1000 AD. The Vikings were an amazing people. They were fierce warriors, great sailors, and skilled navigators. Their desire for better farmland drove them to explore new lands. So this is, I just got a picture here, if you can see that. Can you see that? Let me just put it, yeah. It's a little bit light there. And if you can see that, doesn't seem, but there's the figurehead right there, and you see there's the wooden eye, and that's what he sent Lisa. A wooden eye, Lisa laughed. What eye? Lisa looked in the trunk. There it was, a strange wooden eyeball that seemed to be staring up at her. You see it here? Lisa picked it up. Instantly, the room began to spin. Stop, she shouted. She was whirling out of control. Colors and shapes stretched and blurred. And then, as suddenly as it began, the spinning stopped. And you see there's the figurehead. That's what that's called, the figurehead. And there's the wooden eye up here. Lisa was not in her room. She was on a ship, a Viking ship, just like the ones she'd seen in her history textbooks. The ship was tossing and turning like a toy in a whirlpool. Lisa grabbed the wooden ship's side and clung tightly to it. Steel gray waves bashed the ship. With each wave, Lisa's stomach churned. With each wave, the dragon figurehead on the front prow plunged deep into the stormy ocean. With each wave, icy water overflowed the deck. See those waves out there? It's quite a storm. Help, yelled a man, shoving Lisa aside as he ran across the deck. We are doomed, screamed another, his face white with terror. And then, like the boom of a thunderclap, a tall, ruddy-faced man standing beside Lisa bellowed above the noise. Hold on, do not despair, work together. The ship will not go down. Lisa couldn't believe it. Somehow she understood what the men were saying. But how? They must be speaking an ancient Viking language. How could she understand that? And who was that ruddy-faced man? By the way he spoke and everyone listened, he must be the captain. But it was strange. Lisa was sure she had seen him before, but where? No, it couldn't be, or could it? Suddenly, the captain turned and stared at Lisa. What are you standing there for? Bail, bail, he commanded her. So Lisa began to bail, but it was hard. She kept slipping and sliding as the ship tossed and turned. And then, like a siren, a piercing scream rose above the crashing waves. Lisa spun around. The cry had come from a short man, lurching unsteadily to her left. Blood was trickling down his face. He swayed and then, with a clunk, fell hard against the side of the ship. In an instant, the captain grabbed the unconscious sailor, and not a moment too soon. A huge wave rammed the ship, a wave that surely would have catapulted the injured sailor into the angry waters. The captain lay the unconscious sailor gently on the deck and then turned to the crew. Bail, men, bail, I tell you. We will not go down. The strength and confidence in his voice injected everyone with renewed energy. Lisa and all the sailors sprung into action. The storm raged on, but the panic was gone. And then, crack! A giant wave hit the prow like an enormous fist hitting a face. The dragon figurehead split off and smashed against the ship. Broken wooden oars flew like hail, hitting the sailors in the eyes, in the nose, in the stomach. Wails and groans filled the ship. Stay calm, boomed their captain. This will pass. Soon the storm will run its course. And at last it did. The waves began to calm. Blue streaks broke through the dark sky. We are safe. A great cheer rose from all the sailors. Hooray for our captain. Hooray for Leif Erikson. Onward to new land. So that was Leif Erikson, who we met in the other book on the Vikings as well, with Emily and Matt. Leif Erikson, that ruddy-faced captain, was the famous Viking Leif Erikson. Lisa had just learned about him in school. And here she was standing beside him on a ship in the middle of the ocean. It was all so unbelievable. Why was she here? And where were her jeans and red t-shirt? Where did she get these itchy wool pants and this stiff tan tunic? Not only were her clothes itchy, but cold and wet. She felt like a damp rag. But at least she was alive, not smashed to bits like that slab of wood sinking into the ocean. If it wasn't for Leif, they might have all gone down. Suddenly, the ship lurched. Not again, exclaimed Lisa. Luckily, this time the ship was only pummeled by a small wave. But as the wave hit, something rolled onto Lisa's foot. Lisa picked the object up. Yikes, it was a wooden eyeball. She knew that eyeball. It was the eyeball from Uncle Harold's trunk. It must have fallen off the dragon masthead. Immediately the ship began to spin. Colors and patterns ran into each other like spilled paint. The sounds of the ocean, the voices of Leif and the sailors faded into an eerie quiet as Lisa spun. Then, as suddenly as she left, Lisa was back in her room. Her head was still spinning as she plopped down on her bed. Take a deep breath, she told herself. Stay calm. There must be an answer to all this. But where? The journal, of course. That's where the answer has to be. Lisa picked it up and began to read. Leif Erikson and the Vikings. The Vikings were Scandinavian raiders, traders, and settlers who lived from the late 700s to the late 1000 AD. They were skilled sailors, which means they were very good, who journeyed far beyond their shores to find new land to farm. One of the most famous and fearless Vikings was Leif Erikson, or as he was known, Leif the Lucky. Leif Erikson was excited by stories fellow Viking Bjarne Herjolfsson, and we heard about him in the other book too, told about a land farther west than Greenland. In 1000 AD, Leif sailed west to find this land. He reached what is now Labrador and Newfoundland. Leif and the Vikings established a colony there and called it Vinland. The colony didn't survive, but it was probably the first European colony on North America. So we learned about that too in the other one. They called it Vinland. Yes, it was true. She'd seen it. She'd felt it. The waves and the courage. The storm, the steady sailor's hands, and Leif, brave and strong, sailing to Vinland. Lisa turned to the next journal page. Attached to the top of the page was a note. Dear Lisa, you have begun your journey. You are on a wondrous quest. You have earned the first piece of the puzzle, the letter I. There will be 9 more parts to this puzzle. You must experience each adventure one by one to complete the quest. Stay strong. The answer will be yours. Love, Uncle Harold. Beneath the note was a small wooden eye. So that was it, a quest. But she wasn't sure she wanted to go on a quest. A quest could be dangerous. Lisa held the puzzle piece. And what did the I stand for anyway? So a quest, which is a series of adventures, and the answer is at the end of that quest. And so there will be 9 more parts to this. So I. So this is the second part. Lisa read on in the journal, June 10th, 1983, England. We found a young English boy's cap from the mid-1100s. Life was hard in those times. After the Normans conquered England in 1066, there was unrest and fighting until Henry II and his wife Eleanor of Aquitaine rose to the throne in 1154. Henry helped quell the robber barons who roamed England, robbing, torturing, and killing. Eleanor promoted learning and the arts. Who wore this thing? And there's the cap there, said Lisa aloud, looking at the brown cap. Lisa reached into the trunk and picked up the cap. Immediately, the room began to spin. Oh, my stomach, said Lisa, clutching her middle. Here we go again. She was on a horse, a confused, agitated horse rearing in the air. Desperately, Lisa grabbed the horse's mane, but her hand slipped and she slid down and then thump, hit the ground. Ow, she moaned. Luckily, she landed on a clump of matted leaves, but there were scratchy twigs in the clump that cut her legs right through to her leggings. Leggings? Her jeans were gone again. She was wearing a loose-fitting long skirt and rough leggings. Those are leggings on her legs there. Don't you know how to handle a horse, said a boy on a gray horse staring down at Lisa. Not really, Lisa said. She tried to stand up, but her legs hurt. This is only the 3rd time I've been on one. Well, what are you doing on a horse when you don't know how to ride, growled the boy. Lisa stared at the scowling boy in front of her. He was thin, about her age, wearing a long shirt, tan legging, and a cap covering his hair. I'm lost, said Lisa. Where am I? You're near Salisbury, said the boy, and you've delayed me long enough. And with that, the boy gave his horse a kick and galloped into the forest. Wait, help, please come back, shouted Lisa, but the boy was gone. Lisa was alone in a strange forest. Now what do I do, said Lisa aloud. Now you follow me, said the boy, laughing. Lisa turned her head. You came back, she exclaimed, relief flooding over her. I had to. We girls must stick together, said the other rider. Girls, said Lisa. You? The rider pulled off her cap and out tumbled a mass of curly brown hair. Yes, I'm a girl, just like you. So why are you riding around looking like a boy? Asked Lisa. I'll tell you if you swear not to tell anyone else, said the girl. I swear, Lisa agreed. My name is Sarah, the girl began, and I live in a village nearby. This morning, while I was waiting for my brother's clothes to dry after I washed them in the river, I overheard 3 men planning to raid our village at dawn tomorrow. The men of our village had gone to Salisbury, and there were only women and old people left. I knew we'd all be robbed and killed if someone didn't do something. There was no one else but me to get us help. I knew I had a little time, but not much. I still don't understand why you're wearing boys' clothes, said Lisa. No one pays attention to girls. As a boy, I had more hope of convincing the men to help, and I was right. 10 men from a nearby village rode off immediately to help my village and should be there now making mincemeat out of those evil marauders. Those are crooks and robbers. And now I have to steal back, change into my real clothes, and return this horse before anyone realizes what I've done. Won't the people in your village be grateful you saved them? Lisa asked. Ha! Grateful to a girl? I think not. Well, perhaps my mother would be, but she'd also be horrified. I put on my brother's clothes and rode off like a wild boy. I pray that now that Queen Eleanor reigns with King Henry, things will be better for women. Queen Eleanor believes in learning, even for girls. She travels across the land helping King Henry mete out justice. There they are there. Sarah looked up at the sky. Oh, the sun is sinking fast. I must hurry back before I'm discovered and beaten for my troubles. Come. And with that, Sarah took off through a clearing in the trees. But, stammered Lisa. Lisa had never galloped on a horse, but she would have to gallop to keep up with Sarah, or she'd be hopelessly lost in this creepy dark forest with night approaching. Lisa climbed up onto the horse's back. Her heart thumped as she gave her horse a kick in the side, as Sarah had done. And then, like a shot, they were off. Lisa and her horse flew over the path through the forest, and before she knew it, Lisa's fear vanished. She felt wonderful, she felt free, she felt fast. The sun danced with the leaves of the trees. Birds chirped a welcoming chorus. This was true magic. Then Lisa spied Sarah in the clearing ahead, uncovering something in a pile of leaves. I've hidden my clothes here, said Sarah. They're a little damp, but no worse than before. Would you hold this while I change? And without waiting for Lisa's reply, Sarah thrust her cap into Lisa's hand. As she did, Lisa began to spin. Good luck, Sarah, she managed to call, before being swept up in a twirling kaleidoscope of crazy colors and shapes. Lisa's head was still swimming when the spinning stopped. She was back in her room, but her legs were so wobbly she could barely walk a straight line. I hate all this spinning. I don't even like roller skates. I'm not touching another thing in this crazy trunk. Lisa slammed the trunk shut and went to the kitchen to get some milk and chocolate cookies. Chocolate always made her feel better. She ate 4 cookies and began to calm down. Well, I didn't get hurt, she told herself, and it has been amazing. Ships and storms, forests and horses. I know Uncle Harold would never send me anywhere that was dangerous. I know there's a reason for all this time travel, but what? Before Lisa knew it, she was racing back to her room and opening the trunk again. She picked up the journal and turned to the next page. Life for children in England in the mid-1100s. Life was difficult for children in the 1100s. Many families lived in small huts in one room with a fireplace in the center. Parents were strict, often beating their children if they disobeyed. Most girls lived at home, worked hard, and married young. Few girls went to school. Disease killed many people, and civil disorder was rampant. When King Henry II rose to the throne with Queen Eleanor of Aquitaine, he brought some order to England. He rid the countryside of marauders, those are robbers. His wife Eleanor was a strong-willed woman who loved poetry and learning. But Eleanor and Henry fought bitterly, and eventually Henry kept her under arrest in his Salisbury castle for years. Doesn't sound as if Queen Eleanor was able to make a lot of changes, said Lisa. Poor Sarah. Life was not much fun in those grisly days, except for riding horses. That was fun. Lisa smiled at the memory of her exciting ride through the forest. Then she turned to the next page in the journal. This time, there was no note from Uncle Harold, just another wooden puzzle piece. It was the letter T. I-T. What it? That's what it spells, I-T. What? So, I guess we'll do another chapter tomorrow. So, there's 7 quests left. So, I hope you're enjoying that. And it's interesting that we've gone back to the Vikings, and I think there'll be some other stories here that we've met the characters before. So, hope you had a good day, an exciting day, and you did lots of interesting things in school. Maybe some time with your friends. Maybe you played soccer, like the great Pelé from Brazil. Anyway, lots of hugs and lots of kisses to my grandson. Good night.